And now, Gimmick Infringement.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gimmick Infringement Podcast. I am Brad Winchester, and with me, as always, is my tag team partner, Tyler McDowell Blank. And Tyler, it is Sunday. Next week is a very big week for the both of us. How we doing?
Yeah, man, it's the last GI of July. It is back to school season in full effect. I'm grateful. I'm excited. I'm excited for all that's to come. We got a lot going on. We are just going to start our days earlier. I got to be on campus at 7:30 in the morning every day. Not like leaving, but like actually like on site, ready to talk and listen at 7:30. So it's going to be an adjustment. Wow. These are good problems to have. Mm-hmm. I feel blessed. I feel grateful, and I'm really excited for this particular back to school season. How are you, my man?
You know, I'm doing really well. I'm very tired. Mentally, I am probably more tired than I want to admit. And there's a long road ahead, but I'm really excited. I was looking in the production meeting. I was checking my rosters because I haven't seen them since they got re-updated this week as registration happened at the school. There were a couple of kids that was like, hey, this kid can't be in my class. You got to move him out. They put him in my 3-4, but they'd never taken 1-2. Things like that. And I was like, I really like that kid. I don't want to kick him out. And also, they were in AP Psych. They don't really need to take the intro class, but you got to make things work, right? So there was a lot of like, who is coming and how many kids do I have? And did my numbers go up or down? And
do I have enough desks?
Yeah. Do I have desks at all?
These are important questions.
Those are real questions. Will the sync work? All kinds of things that we have to question. And for those of you who are going like, why would you have a sync in a psychology classroom? Rest assured, it's not in there. It's elsewhere. But this is a big week, man. They say deaths come in 3. You know, we get them in 3s. The first one was a definitive blow to my childhood. Malcolm Jamal Warner passed, and that one hit me. That one hit me. I don't know how you took that one, but that one was like oh man, I can't believe that. And then Ozzy. We lost Ozzy Osbourne shortly after the Ozzy concert. And it kind of felt like, you know, this is it. I'm going to go do this one last thing. And then I'm ready to call it quits. I get to be with my family, my friends, the entire, you know, musical world. And then he's gone. And then for us, here at GI, a wrestling-centric pod, we got to talk about the passing of one Hulk Hogan. You know what happened last week, and people have talked about this ad nauseum, people that knew him, fans of the business, giving their opinions about the person. But Tyler, I'd rather spend the time talking about Hulk Hogan, the character who was much less problematic than the person. The character of Hulk Hogan probably, I don't think there's much of an argument here to be made, had the biggest impact on the wrestling business of anybody ever. You know, you could maybe go Stone Cold, you can go The Rock, but I don't know that we get to that without a Hulk Hogan being in the mix, especially considering that Stone Cold and The Rock were sort of a response to evil Hulk Hogan over in WCW. So those things just all kind of perfect storm together, but we don't have what we have today without Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania and the leaning into the over-the-top character gimmick being transcendent of just the wrestling business. My early memories, what was it called? It was like Saturday Superstars or something that would air after the cartoons were over. We'd have like Looney Tunes and obviously reruns. I wasn't born in the 40s. But we'd have Looney Tunes, and then we'd have like Tom and Jerry or whatever else, and then after that, we'd either have like a sports show. It would be like the weird triple threat cartoon show, or we'd end up seeing Ahmad Rashad, or we would get wrestling. And I can't remember what came at what time. But that's the only time we had wrestling content before we had the Monday Night Wars, because we didn't have Monday night shows. We had the Saturday morning interviews, and then if we were lucky, we got to see it super late Saturday on some random channel out in the ether. Maybe it was TBS, but we didn't have cable. So we would catch what we could in the morning, and it would be Mean Gene interviewing Hulk Hogan. And we'd always wait for the interview with Hulk Hogan to come on, or a breathless Macho Man Randy Savage to do an interview. And maybe we see Jake the Snake or who have Junkyard Dog, or all these great characters from the 80s. But the only one that really, really stood out, and it was like I walked away from that, was Hulk Hogan. I wanted to rip the shirt. I wanted to get the bandana. The whole thing, and then seeing him in Rocky was like, oh my gosh, who is this? This guy is a wrestler, though. I saw him on Saturday morning. It was just so cool. I was definitely a Hulkamaniac. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
So my more formative memories watching Hulk Hogan were after he turned, when he showed up at Bash at the Beach and aligned with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. He was the third. Yeah, he was the third man. And I was obviously aware of Hulkamania and that red and yellow era. I loved the theme song and of course totally bought into saying your prayers and eating your vitamins and all of that. But really, that Hollywood Hogan NWO character, that's when my love of wrestling really started. I have so many memories watching Nitro with my dad, and Hulk Hogan and the NWO, of course, being the centerpiece. But in terms of the pop culture influence and how, like you said, not only was Hulk Hogan in Rocky 3 and in commercials and in other less successful movie projects, that character was just so ubiquitous. It seemed like he was in so many aspects of pop culture in the 80s and 90s, and even
Mr. Nanny.
Yes, and then even into the 2000s, again, when my love of wrestling really started blossoming. When I think about Hulk Hogan, specifically the character element, wrestling, perhaps not unlike education, a field you and I know well, or any other career fields that our audience possibly works in, Brad, there's this element of you having to be chosen. So Vince McMahon and the powers that be chose Hulk Hogan, helped craft this character, and selected the person who would be the vehicle to really launch the company. And wrestling, as you pointed out, my friend, launch wrestling into a new stratosphere. It's not this weird thing that some people are into. It became super mainstream. So I also think about the power of being chosen and how usually there's a boardroom or there's one figurehead who decides who is going to get that proverbial push at a workplace. And it happened to be that the person, Terry Bollea, was given the Hulk Hogan character and was given that push and just given all the resources of the company on his back, and thus had, as you pointed out, one of the more storied careers in professional wrestling. You said it well. I don't know if we would get to the point where we had a character like a Stone Cold had we not had the influence and the success of the big business of the Hulk Hogan character. They're still selling Hulkamania merch. They were still selling before his passing, before the tribute tees. They were still selling Hulk Hogan shirts. Brad, I'll tell you, at our new teacher onboarding for our district, I think you'll be proud of me for this. I quickly became the wrestling guy in the new 50 teacher cohort. Of course, he says. Yeah, I quickly became that person, which is actually kind of a badge that I wear with honor. But I had several colleagues who asked me about Hulk Hogan's passing last week and said, hey, are you going to do something to honor Hulk Hogan with your students in the coming weeks? Or how do you feel? Are you at all?
What would that look like? I'm thinking about, like, what would you be?
Let's
read his autobiography.
Or the aesthetic of the classroom, and there was one gentleman who's a somewhat well-known basketball coach in the area. He teaches PE, and we were in the hallway, and he said, "Hey, did you hear about Hulk Hogan?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I did." And he goes, "Oh man, the Hulkster! Like this was, he clearly a pro Hulk Hogan guy, and clearly like us has childhood memories,
of course,
watching this person." It's interesting to me that either people aren't aware of the outside of the ring.
It's that part.
Transgressions. Yeah. Or maybe, as you and I discuss, I would say pretty on a quarterly basis here on Gimmick Infringement, do we separate the artist from the art conversation? Because I had many people, this speaks to what you said, Brad, the way Hulk Hogan resonated and his reach in entertainment across the globe. I had several different people last week ask me about Hulk Hogan and ask for my thoughts, and the vibe I got was they remember him pretty positively as a character and thought that I would have more of a visceral reaction, but I didn't. You never wish someone's life to end. Of course not.
Right.
But I know we're speaking specifically about the character, but you and I both sometimes find it hard to separate the two. There is no doubt, which my colleagues validated last week, the character's reach in a pop culture and certainly in a pro wrestling sense, it is undeniable, and the Hulk Hogan character was one of the most successful acts in professional wrestling. There's no denying that.
I think to your point, it becomes really difficult to separate the art from the artist when the artist uses the gimmick to make money and promote things and do that. It's like Terry Bollea didn't go to the Republican National Convention. Hulk Hogan did. And that's one of those things where it's like, I just simply would never do something like that. If The Rock were going to promote something, he'd probably go in there to promote it. If it's not something he owns or something like that, probably as Dwayne Johnson or Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and not just The Rock, because now you're associating a character with something else. But especially the older time, like the old timey wrestlers, I guess we'll call them, people that probably had their heyday in the 80s. Those folks seem to sort of live the gimmick, even though, the way that Sergeant Slaughter interacts on Twitter is as Sergeant Slaughter. Not as, I don't know, I didn't even know his name, Steve Johnson. Like, I have no idea what his name is. But like these people, these men and women are ultimately they're actors. But as we see from the Ric Flair, I think it was the 30 for 30. His life became kind of blurry, where it's like, well, where does Ric Flair, start, and where does Ric Flair stop? And where do those people become characters, and are they characters, or do you just end up accidentally method acting your whole life? And I don't know that that's not the case with Hulk Hogan, who I think just sort of became Hulk Hogan. And it's interesting. I think professional wrestling is this unique space where, if you were out in a mall, let's just say you're out at a mall, if those exist, and you're walking around and you see Mark Hamill, you're going to be like, holy crap, I just saw Mark Hamill. But you're not going to be like, I just bumped into Luke Skywalker. You're not going to make that mistake. You're going to, like your favorite actor in a movie, you're not going to call them by their character name. You're going to be like, oh, that's that actor. I'm not going to be like, I can't even think of anybody right now, but, there's Tony Stark over there, not Robert Downey Jr., the person, the human being. But I think almost unequivocally, like, nobody's going to be going, hello, Mr. Lopez, to Seth Rollins. It's just going to be, that's Seth Rollins. And I think wrestling is this unique space where the person and the character become intertwined, and then the culture has a hard time separating those two things. I don't know. The Rock might be the only one to successfully sort of separate those things out. I can't really think of another example of a wrestler being able to do that. John Cena, maybe. He's done a pretty good job. He's doing press for Peacemaker now and doing that. And when he's not talking in a wrestling capacity, he's pretty good about going like, yeah, the heel run's been fun and we're just doing a lot of good work. I like being a bad guy and all this stuff. And it's like, oh man, I can hear the wrestlers from the past getting real mad right now. But being able to separate art from artist, I don't know that you can with Hulk Hogan all that well if you go past his wrestling career.
I also wonder about the seeds, the messages that were planted by the Hulk Hogan character for us, impressionable youth, especially the young men, about two topics, about masculinity and about Americana and American pride. That those two elements were central to Hulk Hogan. You are muscled up, you want to become the world champion, and you love your country. Right? I also think about, and like you said,
you're a
Brett,
person of faith. You say your prayers
and you say
take your vitamins.
Yes, and up until his last days, definitely, like you said, Brad, a lot of the T-shirts, if they weren't Hulkamania related, they were very much religious and Christian based. And it's when we're talking about this, because I found myself last week when I didn't give you this answer earlier, when people were asking me my thoughts on Hulk Hogan in real time, in person, unprompted, I found myself going to he has a complicated legacy, but are we using that terminology to cover up saying he's a multi-time racist champion of the world who also slept with his friend's wife? And so it's even it's unfortunate that, as you pointed out, Terry Bollea, the person, really hindered the Hulk Hogan character's legacy. Whether it's Jesse Ventura's accusations of union busting and just all these transgressions, right, that we could review and sift through. But it's unfortunate that ended up, unfortunate for him and his legacy, that ended up really impacting how a lot of fans view Hulk Hogan. If there is no other evidence than the January 6th WWE Raw launch on Netflix, Brad, we spoke about it on air. That man and Jimmy Hart, sadly.
Yeah, poor Jimmy took a stray.
Poor Jimmy is the sadly.
Yeah.
Got booed out of Inglewood.
Yeah.
I loved it. I think it was even a candidate for Gutbuster of the week.
Yeah,
maybe Gutbuster, maybe Gutbuster of 2025.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
But perhaps this is also I don't want to say a warning sign, because that's very much like, hey, don't get caught on camera, brother. Got to watch out for the cameras. But it's really a warning to anyone in the media space or any celebrity where your life is documented now. Mm-hmm. And the way you treat people, the way you seek redemption, or maybe you think redemption is not needed, or it's a good tagline, but I'm kind of living my life the same way. You have to be extra careful. And last thing I want to say, Brad, you so astutely pointed this out. I'm blessed with the best co-host there is. Obviously, Terry Bollea, the man, was still using Hulk Hogan, the character, in his public appearances.
Right.
There's Hogan's Hangout, his restaurant in Florida. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's the Hulk Hogan shop also in Florida, I think in Clearwater. His infamous appearance at the Republican National Convention last year, as you said, it was in the Hulk Hogan character. He cut a promo on the biggest political stage. He did the t-shirt ripping and all of that. So Hulk Hogan was in the zeitgeist for maybe a record amount of time. And as a fan watching him as a kid, it's really unfortunate that the man revealed himself and showed himself in such a way that it hindered my fandom of that character. I think your fandom as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And a lot of other wrestling fans, because he, for many folks, is on the Mount Rushmore, still is, but he's not on mine. But the character, man, it's all the money that was made, all the tickets that were purchased to see Hulk Hogan simply body slam, simply do a leg drop, simply clothesline, and then also provide these messages to impressionable youth about what it means to be a man and what it means to be American. There could be a whole dissertation on the
100%.
The marketing,
mm-hmm.
the career, the placement of these messages. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins. Saying your prayers inherently, we're a Christian country, that's inherently kind of embedded in a lot of what we do and who we are as a people. It's fascinating to me. It's absolutely fascinating.
And to your point, for those of you that don't know, that are listening or watching, that don't know what Tyler was referring to with the apology, the insincere apology, it was after the sort of the racist diatribe leaked and went public. There was an opportunity, which is, this is saying something. Vince McMahon gave Hulk the opportunity to speak with the crew to set the record straight and apologize and really, fix the relationships he broke back there by saying these things, especially to the black talent. Well, really only to the black talent. And he didn't. He apologized basically for getting caught and said, people are listening, just assume everybody's listening. You don't want this stuff to get out, instead of saying like, I made a mistake and I won't say this kind of stuff. It's, and then put in the work. He didn't do any of those things. Not an apology, not the work. That's the
part. Yeah, that's the part that was lacking.
There's I can't remember his name. There was a NASCAR driver that It's very similar circumstance that happened. I think he's still racing, and grew up in the South, and it was like pretty common around here. I think he just used it, got caught in it, and then went out, did a sincere apology, ended up starting a foundation, has put in a whole bunch of work. I think he's learned from it and grown from it, but like you got to put in the work, and you have to know that not everybody's going to forgive you. And none of that happened with Hulk. And I think ever since then, forget the Gawker thing. That was wild. And in fairness to him, like he was right. Like that was nobody should be like news should not be publishing stuff like that.
It was simultaneously the rise and led to the fall.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But I think for him, sending mixed messages of the Christian thing and the say your prayers and take your vitamins and I'm a real American, buy my beer. By the way, I'm going to get hammered in front of a camera and say, who wants to see me body slam a woman? It's that kind of stuff where it's like, this is real bad.
And you're also taking PEDs. And that's a whole separate episode of GI. How do we feel about athletes who do that?
It was flatly lying.
It was a different time, but I can go to my local LA Fitness all I want, but there's no way that I'm gonna look like you and have the 28-inch pythons or 24, whatever number he said. If you have the advantage of on the side, you are also taking steroids.
Looking at him as peak Hulkamania. Right, like when he originally, they were showing clips the other day of his first walkout to Real American, and when he wrestled Randy, and he's like biting the thing. He's got like the towel and he's got the bandana on, and he looks awesome. He's just so big and swollen. And then you go ahead, not that many years after that, I'm sure it's probably like a decade, but seeing his debut in WCW where he's like half of that. Still an enormous human being, but like half that size, like a normal sized person. And then all I never took steroids. Like, come on, get out of here with all of that.
Right. It was a different era. We get it, but
and whatever.
It's still the deception.
But it's like,
this is who I'm presenting.
Lying to the feds and
right. Yeah. And Brad, I don't know that I really did this justice with the NWO talk. It is impressive that you go from this Hulkamania act, huge deal, one of the biggest acts in the history of wrestling, and then your next move is Hollywood Hogan, NWO, which even supersedes the red and yellow Hulkamania, and obviously Hollywood Hogan being the face of the NWO. Yes, you had Scott Hall, yes, you had Kevin Nash, but we need a figurehead, we need the silhouette that everyone will recognize.
They were the outsiders, and he was the insider, right? Like, that's what made
exactly. People are still writing books. Shout out to Mark Raimondi. He shouted us out on X. I got the book from my dad. My dad really enjoyed the book, How the New World Order Changed America. There are still books being written about the NWO. You and I have seen this firsthand. There's still people wearing NWO merchandise. 100%. There are so many podcasts that have the NWO font, the NWO aesthetic.
Yes. So many.
And the NWO has not been active in north of 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. That's also interesting to me that the NWO arrived at such a critical time in culture and still somehow in 2025 is still very much present, and by my last account still does well on the WWE shop in terms of merchandise sales. People still love themselves, the NWO, that whole counterculture idea. And would the NWO have reached that level of popularity and been that iconic if the Hulk Hogan character turning villainous was not the figurehead of it? I don't know that it would. It was an epic moment.
Yeah, I think it would have been good, but it wouldn't have been, there's no comp. The closest thing that you could even come to is the Dark Order without Brody Lee.
Yeah, there's no companies have tried to replicate some of that magic, but the NWO was just lightning in a bottle.
But as a trios, those three would have been fine on their own.
Sure.
The problem happened when they just blowed it up, and it was like 3/4 of the roster was in the NWO, and then they had to split that, and it was supposed to be a brand split, and we're going to have an NWO show and a WCW show, and it just never happened.
And you don't invest in younger talent. You're just focused on propping up these three guys. And this,
you mean Glacier wasn't going to do it for you?
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's fascinating.
Disco. Shane Helms though he was there. Hurricane Helms, loved him there, loved him in WWE. Billy
Shout out
Kidman.
Yeah.
There was
Rey Mysterio.
Rey Mysterio. There was a lot of talent there. Dean Malenko. Unfortunately, you had people leave earlier. Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero all came out of WCW, but they all left WCW.
A women's division, sadly.
Perry Saturn, yeah.
Perry Saturn, of course. Sometimes I look back at those cards, or I'll watch it on Peacock.
It's crazy.
And I'm just shocked at, wow. Thankfully, we've come so far, and we get multiple women's matches on bigger shows because
and matches, not pudding matches.
It's
not
jarring.
bra and panties matches.
Yes,
like actual women's matches that are awesome, often better than the men's.
I couldn't agree more. Well said.
Yeah. Well, complicated legacy for sure, but we also have complicated politics in America, Tyler. Politics, not politics. Maybe it's budget cuts, pal. I don't know, but we're going to get into it. It's time for What Happened Here. We'll call it CBS/Paramount edition. Play the music.
What happened here?
Brad Winchester, what is happening with the CBS network? Paramount, the network's parent company, settled the lawsuit with the Trump administration earlier this month. You may have heard about this, agreeing to pay out $16 million. That's with a capital M. $16 million following the president's criticism of alleged malpractice when editing an interview with then presidential candidate Kamala Harris for CBS's signature Sunday program, 60 Minutes. Now, the network has also announced that The Late Show with Stephen Colbert will end next May. What's happening here, Brad?
Number one, the part that I think is important is that Paramount made a public statement before doing the settlement that we're in the right. We stand by what we did. We did nothing wrong. We will not waver. And then they settled. They settled as the Sundance agreement for the merger with Paramount is going through right now, and it has to be approved federally before it can happen. This is absolutely a bribe. This is the most bribe obvious thing in the entire universe. It's a bribe. And what's one of the conditions that could easily be associated with the bribe? Get rid of Colbert. Colbert has been critical of me and my administration the entire time. Get rid of him. I wonder what happens next. What happens with The Daily Show, Jon Stewart, and Comedy Central? Now, Jon Stewart's comments about The Late Show, which I have thoughts about in a second, The Late Show. He is completely right about having, The Late Show, the highest rated show on the network, one of the longest running shows in the world. It's been on for almost 30 years since Letterman took over or started it, and it's just going away. And the reason that the valuation of the company, part of it is it was built by shows like The Late Show, and financially, The Late Show has 200 staff members. They lose a lot of money every year to make the show. So it really is a financial drain to produce the show in an era where we don't have to tune in live. And there are other options. But like clips and doing online things do really well. And that's where I experience most of the late night TV stuff. I see clips after the fact. I haven't tuned in live to a late show in years.
I was going to ask about your relationship to late night TV. Did you ever have?
So I absolutely, Tyler. So I did not like watching Jay Leno. I thought Jay Leno is overrated. I thought he was formulaic and boring. That
was my mom's favorite. I grew up watching Jay
vanilla pudding. Okay, I was going to say his.
My mom might delete your number. Brad. This is.
That's fine. It's fine. He had good segments. He had jaywalking. He had jaywalking. He had the little like newspaper clipping gimmick.
Yeah. That was my childhood.
I just couldn't stand the like. Here, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put my hands in my pocket, even though if I'm performing, you're not supposed to. And then he do his little joke and bob his head. I just did something. Like, get that out of here. I hated that stuff so much. I just watched him going like, this guy just seems fake all around. Flip the channel over. And like, maybe this is all sullied because of what that man did to Conan, my guy Conan.
That's right. You're a Conan guy. I completely.
So like the whole Tonight Show thing to be like, I'm getting out of the way. Conan O'Brien deserves this. I'll never get in the way of this. And then him taking a show and wanting to move they're like, cool, we'll give you 11 o'clock. We're going to shove the Tonight Show down half an hour. Like,
Brad, do you remember how big of a deal that was? That was that was feud of the year.
Of course I do.
And late night just does not matter nearly in the same way as it did back then. It was a launching point for a lot of comedians now, the Shane Gillises and other people in that space who are emerging. I don't know that there's a desire to even do late night anymore. So you can just have a special on Netflix and pop off.
Exactly. The Tonight Show was like, I don't know. Jimmy took over and it was really good. I don't care about it. I haven't really cared about the Tonight Show ever. I was excited when Conan took over because I was like, that guy who had carte blanche with the Late Show. Late Night. Excuse me, Late Night. So Conan had Late Night after Letterman. Letterman had the Late Show. So David Letterman got the Late Show after Johnny kind of talking to David about taking over for him at the Tonight Show, and the plan was always going to be David Letterman to the Tonight Show, and then it just didn't happen. They gave it to Leno, and Letterman was gutted. So CBS created that show for David Letterman to be a direct competition with NBC's Tonight Show. It's the only reason it exists. So after that show, they added the other one. There's been the Tonight Show, and then they had, I can't remember what the name of it was, which was more of a semi-serious sit-down interview show. That went away, and then it became the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson to start off with.
That's right.
Or, excuse me, Craig Kilborn, and then Craig Ferguson. Craig Kilborn, the original Daily Show host before Jon Stewart. So Conan was there doing totally different things. Completely different things. And the thing I loved about it was that it seemed like the people that were there as guests were free. And in the other shows, they all felt kind of buttoned up and like, oh, I got to do this thing. And I just love the freedom in that. I always thought Conan would take over for Letterman, but Letterman was still going at the time, I believe, when the Tonight Show opened up. And they were like, yeah, we want to get you over there. So they played Surrender as Conan's intro, show him running from New York to LA. It was great. And 6 months. And they were like, get out of here. The ratings aren't good. And it's like, that was around the time, like Jimmy Kimmel had started up. Carson Daly was following the Late Show, or Late Night. Excuse me. Went Late Show, Late Night, I think. And then Carson, or it was Late Show and then Carson. I can't remember what channel he was on.
And then TBS eventually struck that deal with Conan, and it was like, hey, we're gonna build this.
After he wrote, so the letter writing thing from Conan O'Brien is something that I still use in the classroom on occasion. Well, I did when I was teaching English. It's "Dear People of Earth" is how he structured it. He was like, I'm not going to sabotage the time slot of the Tonight Show, which has been set forever, to capitulate to this. I'm just going to bow out. They can just have it back, and that's what happened. He left. It sucked that he left, but. He eventually went to TBS, and I love Conan, and I thought that show was pretty good from the stuff I watched. I never watched it. I was kind of done with late shows at that point anyway, just because streaming was starting to take off, and there were just other options, and it's like I wasn't watching it anymore. And I think seeing the death of the Late Show, from Stephen Colbert being guest host on Daily Show to the Colbert Report after the Daily Show, which lots of people didn't know was satire, to him taking over Letterman's old show, to Jimmy Fallon, who took over for Conan, eventually going to the Tonight Show. Like, all of that has been just so interesting to me. the dynamics and all of this, but the war is over. There's no war for late night anymore because nobody cares. And I think that sucks. If they did an in-studio show on a streaming platform that was new every night, kind of what, John Oliver does once a week and can do it on Max and people can watch it. It's a once a week show. That's a late night talk show, essentially. That feels like probably the move from here on out, where you do a Graham Norton thing. But over on the BBC across the pond, you have that. There's one or two other options, but it's not like here. There's just too much going on here. So I got a lot of feelings about it. I'm sad for Steven. I'm sad because that show was just going away after, 30 years. And last thing I'll say, because I've been talking forever, is I used to, in the summer especially, on days like today, when it was really hot, I would sleep in my basement. And downstairs in my basement, this is high school, college, first couple of years, we didn't have air conditioning, so it was like 10, 15 degrees cooler down there, muggy and damp, and pill bugs probably on the ground and stuff, little roly-polies everywhere. But whatever, dude, a pillow, a sleeping bag, and an old TV that had an antenna and the turn dial for channels 1 through 13. And I could turn it on channel 3 and I could get CBS really clearly down there. So my summers were spent watching Letterman and Conan until the 3 bars came up after the national anthem would play, until programming later on. That's just how I ended my evenings in the summer. So it was a huge formative part of my life. It probably informed a lot of what I think is funny. Paul Schaefer on Letterman is why I don't like fake laughs. There's just a lot of that stuff that just sort of became embedded into my whole being. So seeing Stephen Colbert treated kind of like this, maybe it's a bad product of timing. Maybe he just said the wrong thing at the wrong time, or maybe he said the wrong thing in its punishment. I don't know. We probably won't know ever, but it sure seems like he's punished, and the whole show is punished for this, for budget cuts, pal. There's too many things happening with the federal government. There's no longer any oversight because the Supreme Court got rid of it, because people voted for a giant federal government under the guise of small federal government, which is crazy to me that the federal government has all this power now, brought to you by the party of small government. And I don't really know where this goes, because it's systematically removing free speech as we look at it under well, you can't be critical of this. It's but it's free speech. That's how this works. So I don't know.
That is how it works. Conspiracy tie is also in full effect. The right to a free press is such a foundational element to all of this and to our society. And CBS, I'm fascinated to see how the rest of this year and even into 2026, certainly when the Colbert show is going to be ending, heading into that summer, how this is going to play out for them as a network. Because even to this day, Brad, CBS is viewed as really a bastion for solid to great journalism. This network is host to Face the Nation every Sunday with Nora O'Donnell. Oh, I'm sorry, no, with Margaret Brennan, my apologies, who is one of the sharpest journalists, covering politics. And I think all the networks are thinking about this, but particularly with CBS and settling this lawsuit. Like you said, even though them standing on, we don't believe we did anything wrong, but we know that this is just a means to a greater end with the FCC and with Skydance. I'm just eager to see how this plays out for CBS, and moreover, what this means for journalism. As a former journalism student, I remember these lessons we would learn in class, and really how the nuts and bolts to how to do this work, but moreover, this understanding that here is this responsibility, maybe not unlike teaching. Here is this larger societal responsibility you have as a journalist, which in summary is to hold those in power accountable to the people. And if that's potentially being eroded, that's something that I really care about and think of. And I have previous classmates who are still in the industry. And CBS is going to be a really, really huge litmus test for what does journalism look like over the next few years.
How do you think What do you think the reaction fallout, if anything? Because there's been nothing. I think Stephen Colbert took the bullet for Trey Parker and Matt Stone, I think, here.
Yes.
Because my guess is that there was a
speech.
scathing text or email that ended up going to Paramount execs about the South Park episode that aired, which was just chef's kiss. It was really funny because people were like, I can't believe they would allow this. Why didn't they vet this and do all this stuff? It's like, did you not see, like, was it 6 days to air, 8 days to air, whatever it is? Have you seen that documentary, Tyler?
I have not. No. I've been following the headlines, but I've not seen it myself.
So I believe it's on, I want to say it was, maybe it's not on Netflix anymore, but it's about how they create episodes of South Park, and they do it in a couple of days. Each episode is like written, drawn, animated, recorded, all of it in a week. Like 1 week from start to finish. They do all of it in 1 week. So people were like, they had this grand plan. Like even the season 27 trailer that Paramount asked for, they made a trailer in like a couple of hours with all this stuff happening in it. And they're like, we're not doing any of that stuff. They needed a trailer. So we just made a bunch of stuff happening. It's nothing to do with any of the episodes because it's like, we don't do that. We do it right away. So we have instant, immediate, relevant content when we make an episode. So that's why it's like this thing can happen. And then they can immediately pivot into, here we go. We're going to take big shots at this person.
We even thought about it with our Hulk Hogan conversation.
Yeah.
In the production meeting, we were thinking, okay, this is days after Hulk Hogan's passing.
Yeah.
How do we handle this? But then also think about the immediacy.
Yeah.
And making sure people can access our thoughts. And yeah. It's I didn't know all this about Parker and Stone and their calculus.
Well,
but
and
immediacy
I wonder,
immediacy is a factor, of course.
and that's your point. That's the point. It's like it's immediate. It's not planned. It's not like they had a premeditated year-long plan to create art that will target something that just happened. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
Unless they're precogs over there. This is one of those things where I don't know that Paramount can do anything, and I think it's called Skydance Sundance earlier because that's going to be a mistake I make forever. I think, it's just, come on, too many dances. I think if they react now, they're reacting after the fallout of Colbert, and it's going to be like further fuel for the fire of, no, you're just capitulating, right? So if they react negatively towards South Park, it's going to be a bigger public backlash. If they do nothing, then it becomes kind of clear like, oh, you're only doing this because, and then it's like,
right.
They're screwed because of this.
Does this affect viewership in any way for
Yeah.
CBS? One of the big, historically,
it
one
has
of the
cranked.
big three, big
Yeah.
four networks, you still have, if I'm CBS Brass, we still have very valuable properties on the network. Big Brother. All this has not stopped my love for tuning in for Big Brother. You have Survivor. Of course, you have the network television shows, which I don't really mess with as heavily, but Big Brother is my jam every summer. So as a network, is this a sign of where CBS is heading into the future? Or is this going to be a situation where, during the next 3 years of the administration, maybe they're a bit more calculated and careful? What does this mean for the future of 60 Minutes?
Right.
You've had staff of CBS openly leave due to
The head of one of the creative heads of 60 Minutes.
of 60
correct?
Minutes, right,
Yeah.
which has been the journalism program for decades.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all fascinating to me, Brad.
Yeah,
I'm
that
really
clock,
eager to,
man.
yeah, I'm really eager to see how CBS, if this ushers in a new era for the network with some of their budgetary decisions and their vision for what programming looks like, or if it's going to be business as usual. And as you pointed out at the start of our segment, we had to get this done, but we still stand 10 toes down on reporting truth and holding those in power accountable, even though the $16 million check perhaps doesn't align with the business we claim to stand on. I'm super eager to see where all this goes. I'm glad we had a J School moment because 60 Minutes, like we in school used to study this as being, this is the program that we look to, and
The program, right? Like the example.
the program for
Yeah.
generations. For
Yeah.
me, when I was in school, Brad, for my parents, I wonder if we're ever going to reach a stage where 60 Minutes is on the chopping block. I'm not ready to say that, but I never even imagined that it would be in question we shall see.
Yeah, it's strange because the complexity of the networking stuff now. CBS is CBS Paramount. Even ABC is Disney. It's Disney. It owns ABC, ESPN, Hulu, all that stuff. And even they, I guess, have been financially struggling and are looking for buyers and merging in with other companies. You go to HBO Max is now HBO Max again instead of Max. Thank God. It's just always bugged me about it. Like I like calling it HBO. But HBO isn't HBO anymore. HBO is part of Warner Brothers Discovery. It's not even its own thing. It's just an entity. So is CBS really even CBS? Who's controlling that now? And if Skydance takes over, did they pivot? Do we get does UPN become the CW? Does TNA pivot to Impact? Is CBS going to become some other thing? Because those letters don't really mean anything anymore. The title does, the logo does, CBS to me does. Does a 15-year-old care about CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox? Maybe Fox, because Fox is a word and not an acronym. So I don't know.
I think that's what also did in because we have a few different branches to this conversation. Going back to what you said about late night, I think that's also what is doing in late night television is that the demographics for the audience, I don't believe it skews younger anymore, Brad. And celebrities, you remember when we were growing up and when a movie star was going to go on a press run to promote the movie, the most important stop was late night.
Yes,
it was
100%.
Leno, it was Letterman, it
100%.
was Kimmel. I know Trevor Noah obviously emerged in this space as well. And now there's just such an influx of podcasts and alternative media that simply didn't exist in 2005 or even wasn't nearly as popular in 2010 as podcasts are in 2025. Now, so even the
like
necessity...
Hot Ones, right? Like you got all kinds of different ones.
Absolutely. Gimmick infringement. The necessity... We are available. Our DMs are open. At GIPod19. The necessity... The vision for late... That was pretty good, right? For late night television...
Get a production team.
Yeah, please, production team. It's completely shifted. And there are still talented people in late night. And I really think about, as you pointed out, the staff that are affected, right? You mentioned 200 people on staff for late night. Stephen Colbert, we assume, is going to be fine. Yeah, at least financially.
He'll land on his feet. Yeah, he'll be great.
100%. He had a multi-million-dollar contract for his staff. I don't know that we always speak to what does this mean for folks when a team leaves a city, when a show ends. Okay, we're thinking about the star players, we're thinking about the host, but what about the staff behind the scenes? I know that's close to your heart with the work you do in theater, thinking about all the people that make productions and make shows happen. So, of course, thinking about them and obviously hoping those talents land on their feet too. And that we protect journalism because I think it's really important.
So I'm looking at this. I believe there was the writer's strike, and then I think when I can't remember if it was when he moved to late night. Conan paid for his staff to move, and paid for his staff throughout the writer's strike out of his own pocket just to take care of those people. I imagine Colbert is thinking about these things. Granted, they have an entire year to figure it out. That's an entire year to find a new landing spot and hopefully bring a lot of those people with him. I'm sure all of that is on his mind and on the crew's mind and the writers and all of those other things. We'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Last thing I'll say is the networks. I do think there's a cachet with these networks, especially when there's history attached to it, or we wouldn't care about what Tony Schiavone says about the first time on TBS or the first time on TNT or whatever. This week, in fact, when he brought up on this very network about Hulk Hogan debuting and changing the landscape of professional wrestling, I thought what he said, I meant to put this earlier, but I was thinking about it in terms of a network. Him talking about the landscape of professional wrestling changing forever because of TBS, TNT, because of Turner Networks being able to broadcast shows. We got Nitro. We got, to a lesser extent, we got Thunder. But we got the Monday Night Wars.
Not the shot at Thunder. Yeah, still to this day.
I can bring up Glacier again if you want. taking the time to say like, hey, remember, people are complicated. And he said everything we were talking about without saying it at all. And he brought up his family. Our thoughts are with the family. You have no idea what they're going through right now. And, watching people publicly dunk on Hogan or mourn his passing or just have conflicted thoughts about him going out. I don't know that seeing Tony Schiavone, for me, somebody who grew up watching it on that network, on a 3-letter network, Tony Schiavone say, our best wishes, our thoughts, our prayers, whatever, go out to his family for what he did for the business, sitting behind the seat with those letters in front of him from where it came from. I just hope those letters matter. And Paramount has done a damn fine job of making those 3 letters not mean anything. And I hope that changes.
Well, I think it's time for us to pick up the vibe of the show, Brad. And there is one way for sure that I know we can do this. The 2 most important letters. No, that's not what I wanted to say. The 2 most important words here at GI, Academic Infringement. You know what time it is. Let's get to it. We're just building suspense.
Yeah, we are.
We're gonna.
I think the computer's buffering. I'm not really sure what's happening.
Why always the buffering at the most important?
Steph Watch.
Okay, here we go, Brad.
And it's just going on loop now. Yeah. It's just playing on loop.
Maybe that's
what's
what we
happening.
Need. Maybe that's what we need, Brad. You know how we do it around.
Now I'm trying to play it, Tyler. This is egregious. Production team. Hey.
Are we embracing the mess?
Back up
Hard
the
launch?
truck. We're going to talk later.
You heard it. I heard it. The people heard it. It's time for Steph Watch. We saw the highly anticipated rematch between Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky on Raw last week. I was not ready for it, Brad. I had no idea this was going to happen. Awesome match.
Totally missed it.
Okay, damn. Predictably, once again, there was no decisive winner due to interference from Chelsea Green.
I did see that.
Yeah, that's expected. But at least we got... And they got... Io and Steph got time as well. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we're going to have a third match for them, hopefully with a decisive winner at some point. But as of this recording, La Primera does not have a match at SummerSlam. I predict that will change. It's giving maybe a tag team with Nikki Bella, maybe a 6-woman match. One can hope. We will see what happens. All signs point to Vaquer versus Naomi, assuming Naomi wins this weekend at SummerSlam, which we'll get to, at September's Clash in Paris. I'm sorry, not September. At WWE's Clash in Paris on August 31st. Hopeful that happens. We know either way, La Primera is the number 1 contender, but hopefully we get her on SummerSlam's card. And hopefully we'll see her as soon as tonight on Monday Night Raw. Brad, I want to talk WWE. Are you ready for my question?
I am ready.
We're going to get right to the point. How would you assess the build to the first ever 2-night SummerSlam? More specifically, which match, or furthermore, which matchups are you most excited for this week? And it's a really big deal, is it not?
It is a big deal, and I don't know that I have a specific match that I'm most excited for right now. I have to actually pull it because too many events.
For real?
I truly mean this. There's so many events. We just came off of a 3-show weekend for WWE with an AEW event, obviously, in there too. But when you have a 3-show weekend and then it's only, is it even 4 weeks? It doesn't feel like it. Maybe it is, and I'm just crazy. But like, it feels like it's 3.
No, that was July.
At this point, maybe. I was going to say
that was July 12th. That Saturday.
So
we're recording on July 27th.
And we're going into this, and it's like I just feel like they didn't have it planned out. Where, let me rephrase it. They had 2 nights planned out, and that's what they had planned out, and that's kind of where it ends. So we're getting some of the fallout from that. Like, we have winners challenging, Jade and Tiffany. That's because of what happened earlier, and we have some other stuff. But like, I don't know how up you are for Randy Orton and Jelly Roll against Drew and Logan Paul.
I think you know.
I had a feeling.
No interest. I have no interest in that. I am hurt for Drew McIntyre that he has to team with Logan Paul. I have zero interest in that match.
I'm the only one that's really been building forever has been Sammy and Karrion. Like that one's been an ongoing thing for what feels like 6 months. I'm curious to see how that goes because every time he wrestles, people crap on his wrestling, and like I don't get why. Like you know what he is, you know what he's gonna do. He's not in there to do flips and stuff. He's in there to be a killer. His nickname was Killer Cross, for God's sake. Like not Flippy Cross, not like Poison Rana Cross, Killer Cross.
Not Tope Cross.
No, like
Tope
you don't need that. But I think that might be a really fun juxtaposition in styles, and it's Sami Zayn, so it's probably going to be awesome. I'm the most curious to see what happens there. I don't know if it's the match I'm looking forward to the most. I'm not really looking all that forward to John Cena and Cody Rhodes. I don't care. I've seen it.
Wow.
Gunther and CM Punk, however, that one I'm looking forward to.
Is CM Punk leaving Jersey as champ?
I kind of hope not. But I also like, what's this run been for Gunther? So, or at all, since he's been champ. It's feud with Jay for 8 months and then win the title, beat Goldberg. And now he's fighting CM Punk. I feel like they forgot how to book Gunther as soon as the Intercontinental title was off of him. It's like that level of booking and presentation was like he's an unstoppable force. It was Miro level TNT run, unstoppable force. And now it's just, he's a guy and he happens to have the title and he gets some big moments, but it's not whatever. But I think CM Punk and Gunther are going to put on a good one. John Cena, Cody Rhodes it'll be fine. It's a street fight. So it's going to be a bunch of outside of the ring BS, tomfoolery stuff. Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu is probably the one. Outside of the triple threat. Tyler, it's got to be the triple threat. Naomi, Rhea, Io, it has to be that one. It has to be. It's the one for me. But I am really looking forward to CM Punk and Gunther, and I'm curious to see what happens with Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross.
This could be a case of my expectations being so low for this show.
Yeah, it's rough, man.
That there's nowhere to go but up. That we may be here next weekend. We record on Sundays, drop on Mondays. Shout out to us. And I am going to be much higher on SummerSlam because I don't feel very excited.
It's Carter's
about
cheeks.
This. It is. We have some rematches. You mentioned
two-night booty.
Two-night booty is crazy. We saw Cross and Zayn just wrestle on Raw, if I'm not mistaken. Great look for them to be on this card. Happy for both guys. To me, like you said, the people's main event for sure is Naomi versus Io versus Rhea. Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. Just
saw it though. Like I feel like that.
Yes, the money match of the weekend needed the stipulation. They're wrestling in a street fight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
it needed that stipulation because there was no way you were running back a simple in-ring contest between Cena and Rhodes based on how WrestleMania concluded. We could get a Travis Scott reappearance. Dare I say, The Rock could show up to do business.
I feel like there's no chance that guy's showing up. We're gonna have the Travis Scott with no explanation show appearance with the belt that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Out to the same song on repeat again, and then it's just like, just get it.
If I don't make it to GI next week, you know why. Something I'm thinking about is a question that's swirling around in my mind. Can CM Punk afford another big loss?
Yeah, it's a good point.
This would be another title match. I'm going to just say with my chest, Brad, I think Gunther is beating CM Punk. If CM Punk becomes champ in WWE, I see him taking the big belt. I see him with that title Cody's holding. I don't see him, in all respect to Gunther, I don't see CM Punk being that champ. What is it, the world heavyweight champ? I see CM Punk having the belt with the big W on it, undisputed champ Jones.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if we're going to live in a world where CM Punk loses another big championship match on a huge stage. I'm going to pick Gunther to win. I'm going to pick Cody to get his title back and to dethrone John Cena. I'm just not looking forward to the majority of these matches. And when they announced the first ever 2-night SummerSlam, I thought we were going to be so up. I thought this was going to feel like the second biggest WWE show of the year, and it just doesn't for me.
Not at all for me either. I was looking at it going like, all right. Okay. It's Backlash, but 2 nights. It's just it's giving me like any other pay-per-view. But I think when you're like, let's just rat-a-tat-tat off a bunch of events, let's shoehorn Evolution 2 in there with a short announcement, cram it in a weekend where we're already doing two somethings. And then also we got this AAA thing going on with El Grande Kaiser Kano going out there. And we got all this stuff happening around here. I don't know what's going on. There's just so many events that I feel like they're overextending themselves, and they're not focusing on their core product and maybe their third biggest pay-per-view of the year, right? Like this is 3,
At worst, it's 3.
Right. It's to me, it's Rumble Mania, not Mania Rumble, but I like the Rumble better. That's for me. But in the top 2 have to be the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, and I will not hear an argument. SummerSlam is after that for me.
Wow.
And then Survivor Series. I don't know. Survivor
Series.
It's the next oldest one, but I don't know if it's my favorite.
I would say Money in the Bank has surpassed Survivor Series.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
in terms
I think
of importance.
Because I don't care
about
Raw versus SmackDown or whatever we're doing over there. Like it's dumb.
But they're also running Survivor Series at the San Diego ballpark. So business-wise, they didn't run Money in the Bank at a baseball stadium. So we'll see what they do with Survivor Series. It used to be a massive deal.
It's got the name cachet.
It's got the name cachet. Yeah. I would put Money in the Bank ahead of it in terms of fan investment.
Yeah, I agree.
But
it's a good point.
Yeah, but it just depends on the booking. It just depends year by year on what the match card is. But in the hearts of fans, I think Money in the Bank has at least equaled Survivor Series, if not surpassed it.
Now, in fairness, lots of injuries. So,
true.
Liv and Seth being the 2 that I think of first.
Yes.
So
and good pivot to Roxanne and Raquel being champs. I'm actually excited for Raquel and Roxanne, current tag team champs, to take on Charlotte and Alexa
That'll be
Bliss.
Good. That'll be fun.
Yeah, and
I'm excited for those 2 to do something different.
Yes, the total switch up generally from the WWE universe, easy for me to say, toward Charlotte Flair. I think it was a perfect combination of we haven't talked about this on air, but that really, really thoughtful Players Tribune article that Charlotte Flair wrote about her career, about self-worth, about
people coming down hard on Tiffany
standards.
After that.
Yeah, about health and about the moment with Tiffany Stratton, reflecting on Charlotte's divorces. I think it was that with just an overall recognition that these stars we root for are real people. I know that's really hard to conceptualize sometimes because they're popular, they're powerful, they X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But they're real people. And for that article, for her to have the courage to write that article as really a reminder to fans that the people we're watching on screen or paying money to see do have lives outside of here, do have real insecurities. I'm grateful that Charlotte Flair is really working as a performer right now for the audience, and I did not expect her to have this epic babyface run in 2025. I think her and Alexa are going to beat Raquel and Roxanne, but regardless, I'm excited for that match, and I'm really enjoying the work that Roxanne in particular is doing. I'm glad she has a spot on this card.
Yeah, it's a great point. And between the art and the artist, it's like, okay, Charlotte the Flair, the character is out there, say what you want, but when people start commenting on how you physically look very publicly, then it becomes like, okay, now that's not a character, that's my body. And now people are commenting on me, the person, and in her case, Ashley. So it's like this whole, it's very complex. I don't think there's anything like pro wrestling for character work, good or bad.
And no off season. We talk about this when we're thinking about how to construct the show and when to drop and how to drop content. No off season for pro wrestlers. And quickly, Brad, I just want to bring this up because you mentioned it. I totally forgot to respond. With Naomi having cashed in Money in the Bank, we could legit see Jade Cargill beat Tiffany Stratton this weekend and become champ. Sans immediate cash. And so that's also a big look. I know a lot of fans aren't necessarily super high on Jade Cargill's in-ring work. She's obviously still learning. But you and I were super stoked when she signed with WWE. I mean, you and I proudly
we can't be talking about Hulkamania.
Exactly. Yeah, let's be
criticizing in-ring work.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that for you. I love that for us.
Yeah, let's keep it. Easily be the female black Hulkamania. That we truly deserve.
Yeah, Hulk, you want to body slam Kamala? How about Jade Cargill?
Yeah, good luck with that.
Hits you with the jaded. How about we just
big boot, man?
How about
just her boot has always been maybe the most devastating move in all of wrestling. I just
Jade Cargill potentially becoming champ is something I'm very invested in this weekend. So I want to give flowers to her and that. I think it's going to happen. I think she beats Tiffany.
I think Jelly Roll is going to do well. So Tyler, I'm conflicted. Okay. On the one hand, I don't want to LWOify the AAA partnership. On the other, the pop that Dom got, I know I sent you the clip, this week from the AAA audience was just unreal. So Tyler, I'm sure this will help draw even more eyes. I'm sure it will. But our Dom and whatever version of El Grande Americano they're getting, are those two what you see as long-term interactions with AAA, or is there some other path for their partnership?
I may surprise you here. I do see them being long-term fits. I was shook when you sent me that clip. Dominic Mysterio may not hit with me as a fan, but I'm clearly in the minority. Statewide, in Mexico, he is a big deal. The pop you got, the clip you sent, again, it was deafening. It was clear that this dude has really worked himself into being a star. And shout out to him for that. I definitely see him, especially with that last name. And if we're getting closer and closer to his pops, winding down a historic career, Dominic really carrying on that family legacy in a completely different way aesthetically than his dad did. I for sure can see Dom being a staple in Mexico. And then El Grande Americano, whether it's Chad Gable or this very strange, but I guess so far successful version of Ludwig Kaiser portraying the character. I would say that has less longevity than Dominic Mysterio in AAA, but clearly it's effective for now.
Yeah,
I could definitely see both working, and then eventually us getting Mr. Iguana back in a WWE production, maybe as late as the Royal Rumble, but I for sure see both of these guys working. I would argue that Dominic Mysterio has more longevity than the El Grande Americano character.
Well, let me try to rephrase it, because I think I phrased the question poorly. How do they not LWOify this partnership?
You did say that.
I said I don't want to see it, but I guess the way that I asked it very much sounded like, will Dom work out in AAA? Of course he's going to work out in AAA, and I think it's going to be great. El Grande Americano, not so much, but great heel character with that.
It's a shelf life
group, right? But
how do you not LWOify?
Are they ever going to send John Cena to wrestle AAA talent? Are they ever going to send their top people to go wrestle AAA's top people? We're getting banger matches. We got, Gable and Vikingo, but are we going to get, Cody Rhodes versus somebody from AAA?
Yeah, I think so.
Or are we just going to send our luchador wrestlers down?
Yeah. I would like to think WWE is more self-aware. I could be proven wrong on this, Brad. I would like to think the company is more self-aware, even just from a business sense, that if you send Cody there, I mean, we've watched Cody Rhodes for the past 3 to 4 years since he signed with WWE, moved over to WWE from AEW. Cody is just over everywhere. It doesn't matter where they go globally. People love the American Nightmare. I could definitely see that, even if they don't necessarily have the social prowess to realize, okay, we should really maybe mix it up and not just have this look of, like you said, the LWOifying. I would have to think from a business standpoint that would be an uber success. So yeah, I think they're going to be much more mindful of that. What I will say is I've also seen Lola Vice making dates in AAA, and she's been popping up in Mexico. So hopefully they thread that needle of, we want to highlight some of our Hispanic, some of our Latin talent, That would be a great deal with AAA, but also not have it just be exclusive to that, because again, we've seen when we have Hispanic talent in WWE, they're often pigeonholed into just being able to either be a part of this faction, the Latin World Order, or they got a feud with the faction. I would like to think folks are more aware, and again, especially from a business perspective, we'll realize, okay, if we send Cody Rhodes there, we send, name the non.
No,
Hispanic talent.
He is technically he's Latin
Cuban.
talent.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm
Cuban.
tripping. And I even listened to you'll be proud of me. I listened to his interview on what he wanted to talk about with Nikki Bella, and he did bring that up. That was a part of their conversation. Was their respective identities. Thank you so much for bringing that up. This is why you are amazing. You're absolutely right. Cody does have Cuban roots. So, name another talent on the roster that doesn't have those roots. Yes, 100%. Whether it's LA Knight or, again, name the talent who could do well and get people to buy tickets, 100%. I would hope that they have the self-awareness, and if they don't, they know what makes money clearly, because business is good and record gates are to be had. I have hope that they'll make that work. How about you?
I'm worried about it because it's like, okay. Lolo's a great point. I think, and honestly, it's something that would be, I think anybody going to a AAA event, seeing somebody that's from the WWE, that's representative talent, and all of those things would be great for the AAA crowd. How do you get eyeballs to the AAA crowd from the WWE crowd, though, if all you're doing is sending Latin talent? And it's I don't want to say, I'm not trying to diminish anything, because Dom is like a megastar no matter where you look right now. It's crazy how he's blown up. But I feel like in WWE, if you wear a mask and your name is not Penta, which, by the way, that entrance, holy bleep. That was their tag team title style entrance right there when they were in AEW. So my fear is that, let's say we get a Latin talent that doesn't work a lucha style. Okay. Are they going there if they're a top star? If they're Seth Rollins. I don't know what his real background is. I just know if your last name's Lopez, it's probably not because you're Irish. So I also know he's from Iowa. So does Seth go with the title? Like, let's say he's champ. Do you send Gunther down there as champ to wrestle something? It would be a great look. And I think people would want to watch what happens with that. But again, I'm not trying to diminish anything, but if we're going to send NXT talent to AAA and that's all we're doing, we're not going to send the top roster guys to go work in AAA, to go work TNA guys to do that. Like, we sent AJ Styles to TNA. We were doing good. He didn't wrestle or anything, but he was there to talk to, well, not a TNA talent. So it's just like, what is the goal here, and how can they actually increase eyeballs outside of the social media views that are beneficial for both companies and the long-term growth of both companies? Because otherwise you're just going like, nah, this is the thing we do in Mexico, and maybe that is their goal. Maybe we just want to have it a different show for a different audience. But then if you try to bring that in here, I don't know if people are going to care if they're not watching what's happening in AAA. People that are watching everything are going to be like, oh, Vikingo is going to wrestle, right? Like, that's going to be nuts. And a whole bunch of people got introduced to him for Worlds Collide. But if that was it, and that is done now, and outside of having an iguana puppet show up, where else does that go? Because they are loaded with talent. But if people aren't going there to find out about that talent, nobody's going to care if they show up at the Rumble to silence. And that's the stuff that I think about long term, is like, you know that they're engaging business by reaction from the crowd and by merch sales. So if you have somebody that's really talented show up and the thing goes off, and until the AAA logo pops up, people don't know what's going on. Because that happens in AEW sometimes, where like a song will start playing and then the face comes up and it says New Japan. You're like, got it. Or CMLL, and you're like, oh, that guy's here. Got it. Because you're like, I don't know these entrances. I don't know this music. How do they do that? I don't know what the long-term solution is. I'm glad I'm not running this thing. I just don't want to see really successful people get pigeonholed into just being one thing, because that's been a problem with WWE forever. And now that they basically own an entire promotion, that is this one thing that they've always had historical problems with. I just don't want to see that happen at a larger scale. Because also, what do you do with the LWO now? Is the LWO even a thing since AAA emerged? Because you don't really need it.
No.
Right?
Zelina branched off with her title run. She's going to get that rematch with Julia. And then, Tag Wild. All
I just don't remember it ever being acknowledged.
Santos
it's just sort of not. And then people got released. And like Carlito was in it. Then he was in Judgment Day. Now he's just not in the company. And it's just strange, man. I think it'll rule if they can figure it out. I just hope they figure it out in a way that's great. I thought this was a great start. Don't get me wrong. I thought this was a really big look for them and for those talent to be able to go, like, I get to go and be representative, and I'm in this huge company trying to help out. It's really cool. And
if we're speaking of talents we like to see over there, I mean, I want to see Obafemi wrestle anywhere and everywhere. Imagine Obafemi versus Vikingo. No, I would need Obafemi to win that match, but you could just...
Oh, no. I got to go Rey Mysterio Giant Killer. That's how you make him. That's how you make him.
I just don't want Obafemi to lose ever.
Vikingo versus Omos is the one.
There you go. There are, to your point, Brad, there's just so much talent right now in WWE, and now that they've expanded and they have the NXT, not even partnership, right? NXT is a kind of a separate product within their programming. It's its own brand. You bought AAA. You have such an incredible group of performers, many of them with Latin backgrounds. The possibilities are endless. But as you brought up and as we spoke about in our last topic for WWE, when you have so much going on under the WWE umbrella right now and you have so many events, pulling back on house shows, but adding all of these premium live events, the creative is really important. How do we not just rush into these shows? And to your point, from a creative standpoint, how do we really treat this with care and not just lump in seemingly a group of people with similar backgrounds or similar skin tones into this kind of other part of the card, and then it seems like they're just stuck there for months on end. It's important.
And I guess the final thing is, I don't know how the talent feels about this. So ultimately, if the talent are super excited about it, then who cares? If they're pumped to go and they're pumped to do that, who cares? They get to wrestle. They get to have a big moment. They get those crowd reactions. Dom's not really, he's not headlining SummerSlam. So for him to go there and get that reaction, cool. And he gets to do that while getting paid to go do it. Awesome. Like, I think that part of it is really cool. We're not there. We don't know. Optics wise, it's not a great look if it's like, oh, we got a AAA event coming up. What Latin talent can we send down? Is all I can think is like, man, what talent can you send down is all I really want. Be purposeful about which of your superstars can go and feud. And maybe you've got a champ versus champ thing that you do when you send down one of your heavyweight champions to wrestle whoever theirs is. Right now, I think it's still Vikingo. So that would be a fun match. And you do it kind of like a Survivor Series match where it's champ versus champ. I think that could be a lot of fun, especially if it's Gunther versus Vikingo. Because that would be a ton of fun. That match would rule. I want to know how Vikingo would sell a chop. Okay. I don't know if he would. His chest might cave in. Tyler, on that note, our show is steadily becoming a double feature, but we have a GI at the movies double feature, so play the music.
And now, it's time for GI at the movies.
Tyler, I said this to you earlier in the week, and one of the things that is funny about this is I was thinking that maybe this is a someday when you have kids, because as much as it was a GI at the movies and I got to watch this film, it was also because I was held hostage. I didn't have a choice. So there was a day I was working on some stuff and I walked in and I was in and out. Jess and Freya were watching this movie and I just heard this music in the background and I was like, oh, a musical came out. I didn't even know it. Like a kid's musical, And I said, what are you watching? And they hit me with we're watching K-pop Demon Hunters. That was a sentence. And I was like, K-pop Demon Hunters is what you just said there?
You weren't ready.
No, I was not. So I was like, I'm not watching that. well, I'll flit in and out because I was like, oh, the art styles are really good. It's really great. The animation is beautiful. Really good stuff. The music's good. And just walking around, and I just kept going about my business. And a few days later, this girl popped up in this Korean game show that was singing one of the songs from this movie. I didn't know it was from the movie at the time, but I watched her reach up for these notes that I don't even know how to describe to you how difficult vocally that level of range is. But all the contestants in the room with her sure understood it. There were dudes in the back putting their hands over their face, and the girls were sitting there with mouth agape. Couldn't believe what this woman was doing. And then I found out it was from the movie, and then I found out same creators of Across and Into the Spider-Verse. And I went, all right, Jess is out of town. I told Frey I'd watch it with her at some point. So she was kind of doing her own thing, and I just loudly turned Netflix up and hit play. And then she leapt off her chair and came running into the living room, and we stayed seated the entire time watching this movie. It was awesome. I really enjoyed this movie, Tyler. I knew going into it, I'm watching a kids movie. I know I'm going to be watching something that's like probably not going to be winning Academy Awards for writing at any point. But I had so much fun. I can't say it was super formulaic or anything, but I kind of knew how a lot of it was going to go, and I was dead on with a lot of it. Very hero's journey, very discovering yourself, and it was really good. The complaints I heard online or saw online were sad ending. Now, I think some of these folks might be new to films and movies because it definitely had a happy ending. Sometimes things need to go that way. I can't say it without spoiling it, but I was like, oh, that's awesome. Because I was like, this is really great. Then it happened, and like, look over, make sure Freya's doing okay. She's like, yeah. And it's great. It was great. I can't recommend it enough. Really catchy music. Some of it's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I've listened to 2 songs quite a bit in the car on the way to work and back. Shout out to Golden and shout out to Takedown. Both of those have been in the rotation pretty heavily, but it's on Netflix. It's worth it. Check it out. But I also know that I will be tuning into Netflix tonight to watch what you're about to give us to.
Oh, great transition. Yeah, I saw Happy Gilmore too. I don't know that I would call it great, but it was entertaining. So, in case you haven't heard, there are a ton of cameos in this film. I will attempt to reveal the ones that you already know about. MJF, AEW star Maxwell Jacob Friedman, plays Adam Sandler's eldest son. Mm-hmm. Becky Lynch plays a villainous golfer. And I'll just give you a few more. Kelsey Plum, Bad Bunny, Travis Kelce, and others have parts in this film. There are so many positive reviews. I was not prepared for the slew of pro Happy Gilmore takes that there were and that there are out there, but people really enjoyed this. It goes back to what you're a big believer in, Brad. You know what you're signing up for when you check out movies like this.
Yes.
I'm really fascinated by the lore that Adam Sandler has developed and this kind of special place that he holds in Hollywood. When you go on Netflix and you're checking out an Adam Sandler movie, it feels like it's its own product. You judge it by its own. Let me know if I'm tripping. No, you judge it by its own separate scale. I think for a lot of us, myself included, it's kind of more of a comfort watch than it is any leading to any sort of artistic critique. So he has a lot of his friends and a lot of familiar faces, not only from Happy Gilmore, but also just the Adam Sandler universe. Again, I mentioned some of those celebrities and famous athletes who pop up in this movie. Adam Sandler is on his own island, playing in his own sandbox. This movie was enjoyable, especially for our audience members who like golf. You are really going to enjoy the messages in this film and kind of the larger critique of the golf industry. I won't spoil that. But the cameos are fun, and the film is entertaining enough that I recommend you check it out, especially if you saw the first one. I think you're going to enjoy this movie, Brad, and you are definitely not alone in that potential feeling you may have. It was entertaining.
Oh, I can't wait. There's stuff I was listening to. Of course, I was listening to a podcast while I was working the other day, and they had Boban on there, so I already know he's in it.
Yes,
because the
confirm.
character, I believe he's reprising the character. Don't spoil it yet, but the person who originally played that part has passed, unfortunately. So I heard that he was in it, and that he's like really good friends with. He's like he claims that Adam Sandler's like his best friend right now. I think that's because I have an affinity for Boban as well. It's kind of hard not to, but I'm excited for that. I already had one cameo spoiled for me. Somebody sent it to me, and I was like, why would you? I haven't seen it. Like they never give us warnings on Netflix, and this one's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't watch it if they're under 13. It's PG-13, but maybe not for anybody under 13. Let's keep it at 13. And I was like, uh-oh, I don't know what's in it that I got to stay away from the Freya stuff. So
I think Freya will be fine. I mean,
Okay,
obviously,
cool.
I'm biased toward Freya, pro Freya, everything, all day.
well, she's going to find out today. We're going
She's
to
going to find
Fantastic
out.
Four.
She'll be fine. And you got Fantastic Four, so we're going to get at least 2 weeks of GI at the movies. Did we have a GI at the movies last week? I don't think.
Yeah,
we did.
I think so. Oh, I don't remember if
We've
it was
had a
last
lot
week or
lately.
2 weeks ago. Yeah,
This has been a big summer for us.
I think it was. I think it was Superman last week.
Yeah.
Or 2
Or the
weeks
week
ago. I don't know.
before.
I don't know.
Anyway,
This
big
is,
summer for GI,
let's hold the audience hostage while we figure it out. Tyler, it's time for some AEW talk. Finally, at $1.25.
Let's get into it. What are your initial thoughts on AEW's newest trio? This time, a new trio in the women's division. Yes, I'm referring to the trio of Julia Hart, Sky Blue, and the Toxic Spider Tekla, now known as the Triangle of Madness.
Well, Tyler, my thoughts are, how dare you, sir? How dare you?
You were going to ask me about them too.
Sure was. That's my question. So, I love it. I think it's great. I think if you're going to go lean into the dark and the like the Julia Hart dark spooky and Sky Blue being more like Sky dark blue. She's been doing that for, like she left, came back, and she's still sort of leaning into that character. Tekla makes a ton of sense there. So the Toxic Spider being in the spooky group makes a lot of sense. And I think it's great for everybody involved. I feel like Julia Hart and Sky Blue have improved year over year. They've gotten better as time has gone on. It's so much fun to watch them grow and ascend, where Tekla has been like, she's kind of elite in the ring already. And it's the other part that maybe she needs to work on a little bit more. So I think this is a great mix of different talent. And I'm excited to see where this goes. My initial thoughts and my question for you, since we're here, is when or do you think this leads to trios titles or tag titles for the women?
The latter, tag titles. I have to believe.
Freebird?
Yeah, that could certainly be an option. I have to believe that by this time next year, we are going to have women's tag titles, if not sooner. My thought is, what would be, is there a meaningful Dynamite on the horizon, or would it make sense to have this announcement at a pay-per-view, let's say, for AEW? Because I know Tony Khan is very cerebral about the timing, and sometimes we've been present for this in the building. Tony Khan has a major announcement. AEW is getting its own reality TV show. We thought it was going to be...
We thought we were getting Sasha,
Right.
and we got Big Business is coming to Boston.
And it seems to me we've gotten
Curses.
much less of that, which I'm grateful for. There have been these proverbial breadcrumbs of we're seeing the foundation of a women's tag division. I won't rehash that. We spent a lot of time on air, especially this summer, going over all of the potentially great tag teams you have to start a division. I believe that a tag division is much more likely than a trios division. I haven't even considered the possibility, prior to the Triangle of Madness, I haven't even considered the possibility of a women's trios division in AEW. They don't even prioritize the men's trios division. Right. So I don't know if we're ready for a women's trio, because if it's established, we want them to actually, we want there to be an investment in the division. And for the men's, the trios hasn't felt important since, dare I say, House of Black.
Yes,
were champs.
I agree.
Probably going on 2 years ago, which makes me very sad. But tag titles, Julia Hart, Sky Blue, we've spoken about how they can be a pillar for a women's tag title division.
Yep.
Tekla, we could go Freebird City. We could go Tekla being a single star. I'm very hopeful. My desire, Brad, is that they won't be directionless, because I think that's unfortunately what we fall into with a lot of wrestling companies, and AEW certainly been guilty of this, is you have a few weeks or a few months of a sustained push, but then what happens? Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie, the Vendetta. Oh, this could be an awesome tag team. But either they're in ROH, which a lot of the fan base doesn't have access to, or we just have to check out the indies if we want to see them.
This saw Deonna like doing
actually
thing.
work.
I'm like, where is she?
Yeah, she was wrestling at a ballpark for GCW against Jonathan Gresham. Awesome, but we just don't get to see her consistently on AEW. So I'm hopeful that not only do I trust in the talent and the progress of the three ladies in the triangle, as you pointed out, but also hopefully this gives them a direction. If neither of the three are going to be in an immediate title program, because not everyone can be in a title picture, at least hopefully this gives them a direction and we see them consecutively on television. Sky Blue, Julia Hart, they're awesome. They should be a contender for future tag champs. And then Tekla, like you said, has really presented something different aesthetically, in-ring wise, for the AEW audience. And I think these three are going to work really well together. I do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, man. Well, we hit an hour and a half. Tyler, what did we miss?
What did we miss? I am going to end with a wrestling note. TNA Slammiversary. I was really excited for the show, and my heart was broken, Brad. Mike Santana did not win. Trick Williams faked an injury, got back in the ring, and defeated. He pinned Joe Hendry, but thus defeating Joe Hendry and Mike Santana. The decision to not crown Mike Santana in his home state of New York, if we're going to wait to do this in Lowell, Massachusetts, no disrespect to Throwback, but if we're going to wait to crown Mike Santana in Lowell at Bound for Glory instead of Slammiversary, when the arena is adorned with fans carrying the Puerto Rican flag, it really left a bad taste in my mouth. Masha Slamovich also lost. So your two main champs, Trick Williams and JC Jane, not contracted TNA talent, but thus they're your two main champs heading into what many would argue is their biggest show of the year for Bound for Glory. I have questions, even if TNA talent end up dethroning these two at BFG and Lowell, Brad, I still don't think this was the right move. I think Masha should have retained. I definitely think Mike Santana should have left Slammiversary with the title. So I'm concerned. My investment in TNA, I don't want to say it's fully wavering yet, but I did not watch Impact out of protest because I am still upset at the booking decisions that were made. Mustafa Ali is still killing it there. I still think the show is worth checking out for various reasons. Leon Slater was crowned at Slammiversary.
Oh, wow.
AJ Styles.
Oh, I did see that. You sent me that. Yeah.
And then AJ Styles put him over. Probably the best thing to come from that show. Mustafa Ali and Cedric teared it up as well. But Leon Slater's there. He's the face of the X Division. That's a win. There's just lots of question marks on the rest of the card. So we'll see what's in store for TNA, but it was a big accomplishment for them to sell nearly 8,000 tickets, their largest North American attendance in company history. We'll see what the partnership with NXT and thus WWE brings heading into the fall. That's all I got. What say you?
I don't have a lot. I just wanted to shout out Pablo Torre finds out. I know I think we brought it up last week. He broke some of the NFLPA investigation open that ended up leading to the president of the NFLPA stepping down as there's an investigation. There's a broader one, too, in multiple markets and multiple leagues. So we'll see how that goes. But I've also really enjoyed his work. There was a great one today about the Yankees, your Yankees, and an infamous 1970s wife swap that occurred. I had no idea about any of this, and it was wild. And then a few other episodes, including one he dropped earlier in, I believe, June, about Hulk Hogan, Dennis Rodman, Karl Malone, and the infamous NBA playoffs kind of build toward their match for WCW, which is crazy. but it's a conspiracy and worth watching, especially if you're a wrestling or basketball fan, or if you just remember that event being nuts.
Yeah, that was we were talking before we started recording. That was a whole era, man. So similar, so seminal to our lives. And who would have thought all these years later we'd have a podcast together talking about this entertaining, crazy business.
That's nuts.
Well, I believe we are worth following. So if you are interested in doing so, please check us out at GIPod19, particularly on Instagram, on Facebook, and on the artist formerly known as Twitter. We post exclusive show updates and more. We thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Gimmick Infringement, and we will see you next week. Gimmick Infringement is a part of 19 Media Group. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube via the 19 Media Group channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.